Who was Daniel? Imagine for a moment a young man plucked from his homeland of Judah. He was taken into the very heart of the mighty Babylonian Empire. His world, as he knew it, had been turned completely upside down. Yet even in this strange and powerful land, Daniel held fast. He clung to his faith, to the traditions of his ancestors. He became known far and wide for his wisdom, a special gift, many believed, from his God. Kings, powerful rulers of vast lands sought his counsel. They asked him not just about earthly matters, but for help understanding dreams, for glimpses into the unseen mysteries of the future. He stood as a beacon of integrity in a foreign court, a living testament to an enduring faith that could withstand even the greatest turmoil. His story is one of remarkable courage and a profound divine connection. The historical stage for Daniel's life was Babylon, a truly awe-inspiring empire that dominated the ancient world in the 6th century B.C.E. For the Jewish people, however, this was a time of deep sorrow. They were in exile, forcibly removed from their homeland. Their beloved city of Jerusalem and its sacred temple, the center of their worship, lay in ruins, a painful reminder of their defeat. This was a period of profound national grief and intense questioning. How could such a catastrophe have happened? Had their God abandoned them? It was within this crucible of despair and uncertainty that Daniel lived and received his prophecies. He offered words that were sometimes warnings, but also messages of hope, trying to help his people make sense of their immense suffering and to point them towards a future yet to unfold. One day, as Daniel was pouring out his heart in fervent prayer, a truly profound moment occurred. He was deeply troubled, consumed with concern for his people and for the desolate state of Jerusalem. He found himself meditating on the words of an earlier prophet, Jeremiah. Jeremiah had spoken of 70 years, a long period of captivity and desolation that Jerusalem would endure. As Daniel sought understanding, as he pleaded for mercy for his people, the archangel Gabriel suddenly appeared before him. This was no mere dream. It was a direct, powerful visitation from a heavenly messenger. Gabriel informed Daniel that he had come to give him skill and understanding to reveal a divine plan that stretched far beyond Daniel's immediate concerns and the 70 years he was contemplating. Gabriel then delivered a dense and deeply mysterious prophecy recorded for us in the book of Daniel, chapter 9, specifically verses 24 through 26. The angel spoke of 70 sevens, or 70 weeks, that were decreed for Daniel's people and for the holy city, Jerusalem. The declared purpose of this extended period was immense: to finish transgression, to put a decisive end to sin, and to atone for all wickedness. But there was even more. This period was also to usher in everlasting righteousness, to seal up both vision and prophecy as fulfilled, and ultimately to anoint a most holy place, or perhaps a most holy one. These potent words have resonated through countless centuries, inviting endless interpretation, deep study, and spirited debate about their true meaning and the precise timeline they describe. Jewish scholars and esteemed commentators, however, approach and read Daniel chapter 9 very differently from their Christian counterparts. Their interpretive focus remains largely fixed within Daniel's own historical era, or within the tumultuous centuries that immediately followed, specifically focusing on the events of the Second Temple period. For them, this complex prophecy is not about Jesus of Nazareth, a figure who is not central to their own distinct messianic expectations or theological framework. Instead, they understand the 77s to detail significant events and profound struggles pertinent to the Jewish people's long history, their unique covenantal relationship with God, and their remarkable perseverance through immense trials and tribulations in antiquity long before the Christian era even began. The term Anointed One, or Mashiach in Hebrew, as mentioned in the prophecy, is not necessarily understood by Jewish interpreters as referring to a singular future divine Redeemer in the way Christians conceive of Jesus. In traditional Jewish interpretation, this evocative term could potentially refer to various figures who were anointed by God for a specific, divinely appointed task. Some rabbinic sources and modern scholars suggest it could be a legitimate high priest, perhaps someone like Onias III, who was known for his righteousness and was unjustly murdered during the severe Hellenistic persecutions. Others propose that the Anointed One might even refer to Cyrus the Great, the Persian king whom the prophet Isaiah also calls anointed, because God used him to liberate the Jews from Babylonian exile and authorize the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. When considering the specific timeline and the events described, Jewish interpretations often link the prophecy directly to the challenging period leading up to and including the Maccabean revolt, which took place in the 2nd century B.C.E. This was a time of intense suffering and religious persecution for the Jewish people. The Seleucid king, Antiochus IV Epiphanes, ruthlessly persecuted the Jews and committed the sacrilege of desecrating the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. The cutting off of an anointed one, as mentioned in Daniel, and the subsequent desolation could therefore refer to the murder of the high priest Onias III and the forced interruption of temple services during this dark and oppressive chapter in Jewish history, a crisis that was eventually overcome by the heroic efforts of the Maccabees. The evocative phrase cut off, but not for himself, can also be understood in various ways within this historical Jewish framework without necessitating a reference to Jesus. It might compellingly describe a righteous leader or a group of leaders who suffered unjustly and were killed, their lives taken from them without just cause. The prophesied destruction of the city and the sanctuary could then plausibly point to earlier desecrations or specific damages inflicted upon Jerusalem and the temple during the numerous conflicts and invasions of the Second Temple era, rather than solely the later Roman destruction of 70 CE. The entire prophecy, viewed from this particular perspective, serves as a powerful message of ultimate hope and eventual vindication for Daniel's people within their own historical context, assuring them of God's unwavering faithfulness, his ultimate justice, and the promise of restoration. At its very core, the persistent disagreement over the interpretation of Daniel chapter 9, verses 24 through 26 is a profound and telling reflection of differing faiths, distinct theological frameworks, and absolutely foundational beliefs. For Christians, this particular passage stands as one of the most compelling and detailed prophecies in the Old Testament, powerfully validating Jesus as the long-awaited Messiah. They meticulously see the details of his life, his sacrificial death, and the subsequent historical events, such as the temple's destruction, aligning with Daniel's ancient vision with what they perceive as remarkable, even miraculous precision. This interpretation significantly bolsters their faith in Jesus' divine nature, his unique identity, and his redemptive work, all foretold, they believe, by God through his chosen prophets centuries before. From a traditional Jewish perspective, the interpretation of this same passage is intrinsically and deeply linked to their own unique covenantal history with God and their specific messianic understanding, which differs significantly from Christian theology in key aspects. The Messiah, in mainstream Jewish thought, is generally expected to be a human leader who will usher in an era of global peace and justice, oversee the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem, and facilitate the ingathering of the Jewish people to the land of Israel, a series of events not seen by Jewish tradition as having been fulfilled by Jesus of Nazareth. Therefore, to read Daniel chapter 9 as a direct prediction of Jesus would fundamentally contradict their traditional understanding of Scripture, the established nature of messianic redemption, and the ongoing historical experience of the Jewish people. The very nature of ancient prophetic texts themselves significantly contributes to this interpretive divergence and the ongoing scholarly debate. These texts, originally written in classical Hebrew and biblical Aramaic, are incredibly rich with symbolic language, metaphors, and cultural references that can be challenging to fully grasp centuries later. And it's crucial to note that in biblical Hebrew, there are no capital letters. Every word is written in a uniform script without the visual cues of uppercase or lowercase that modern readers might expect. This absence of capital letters means that distinctions like anointed one or Messiah are not visually emphasized in the original text. When translators render these terms into other languages, their choices, whether to capitalize or not, can subtly or overtly steer the reader's understanding in a particular direction, adding another layer to the interpretive challenge. Key terms within Daniel chapter 9, such as sevens, anointed one, and cut off, can carry multiple layers of meaning and nuance, especially since the original Hebrew does not distinguish them with capital letters. Scholarly debates over fine points of grammar, precise historical context, and the exact starting and ending points of the prophetic timeline continue to fuel the different interpretations, making a definitive, universally accepted consensus remarkably elusive. So the question remains, why does this debate, rooted in sacred scriptures that are thousands of years old, still capture our attention and spark discussion today? It matters profoundly because it touches upon the very foundations of how two major world religions, Judaism and Christianity, understand God's unfolding plan for humanity, the intricate nature of prophecy itself, and their own sacred narratives that shape their identity and worldview. It stands as a powerful testament to the enduring power of these ancient words to shape individual and communal identity, to inspire deep and abiding faith, and to provoke rigorous intellectual inquiry across generations. The ongoing discussion about Daniel's vision is far more than just an academic exercise. It's a living, breathing dialogue about meaning, history, faith, and the timeless human quest for divine understanding and connection. The very script of the original Hebrew, without capital letters, reminds us how much interpretation depends on context, tradition, and the choices of those who transmit these ancient words to each new generation.
If you've enjoyed this program, please click like and subscribe.